We are making our own story as we go, as we go, as we go. Hoping, we are hoping that we'll go so happy ever after, happy ever after.
Hi, and welcome to your Dream Day podcast. I'm Kathy Piech-Lukas, your host, and today we are going to be talking about your first dance with none other than Bud Walters of Your First Dance by Bud Walters.
That's me.
Now, Bud, how many years have you been doing this?
Wedding couples for 40 years. I've been teaching dance for about 67 years.
Holy cow!
I'm old.
Holy cow! So needless to say, you have a lot of dance experience.
Yeah, and I really feel that that's important because you're not restricted by what I call a studio regime.
Mm-hmm.
You got to teach this way, and you can only teach this many lessons if they've signed up for so many lessons. I've worked for major studios for years, but now that I'm in business for myself, I can do what I think is necessary. I can work it to what that person needs.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody thinks the same. Not everybody learns the same. Not everybody hears things the same way. So if I explain it one way, I can look at them and I know that they're not grasping. So I'll explain it a different way. And finally, some of those noodles will stick in the little container and they get it.
Well, one thing I would guess you probably see a lot is you get brides who have taken dancing lessons when they were a child or, in high school, maybe on their cheerleading team or dance team. And then you have the guys who have never taken a dance lesson in their life.
Exactly. And the first thing I tell them, I say, okay, your fiance has had 12 years of ballet experience and 5 years of hip hop and whatever. I want you to know that you are both starting out on the same foot. Because the thing is just because you know how to play tennis, that doesn't mean you know how to play football. So the fact that she's had dance experience, she's going to learn to follow, you're going to learn to lead, and you're starting out at the same plane. Does that make you feel better? And they go, oh yeah, because they're a little nervous about it.
Well, absolutely. I would be nervous about it because any dance I've had has been self-taught, and I'm sure it's all been kind of bad feetish.
It's really my job to make the groom feel more comfortable. Mm-hmm. They don't know what to expect. They're there usually because she said, we're going to take dance lessons.
Now, what would you say is the number one reason why couples take a dance lesson?
Number one, they don't want to look foolish out in the front of people. They don't want to feel uncomfortable in front of people. I don't liken it to putting on a show, but still in all, you're in the middle of the dance floor, all eyes are on you. And I've had so many people come and say, oh, we went to 3 weddings this year and all they did was hang on to each other, which I call the Frankenstein butt hugger. But they hang on to each other and rock back and forth for 3 minutes.
Like in the 7th grade when you used to hobble back and forth. Yep.
I also call that the elevator dance because there's no steps involved. And it's just one of those things where, people say, that's boring. And, it's like embarrassing in some cases because they just don't look coordinated and they look uncomfortable. And it's like, it's a ritual that we have to do.
Well, and when they take that little bit of extra time, it's also a nice bonding time for the couple.
I've had a couple this week. Oh, funny you mentioned that. Segue. Okay. A couple just wrote a really nice review. And she said that I took the time to find out who they were. And I do. I ask them, where do you work? Because it helps me to find out how they think. Mm-hmm. Engineers think one way and nurses think another way, and the nurses are always usually in charge. That's their job. So I try to find out a little bit more how they met, where how long they've been living together. I shouldn't say that, but most of them are all living together. And if they're able to practice and get to know them a little bit on a more personal level. It's not like, okay, let's dance, let's learn this. That's too cut and dry, and that's too
intimidating.
clinical.
I would think it's probably intimidating too.
Yeah, I mean, I want them to know, I let them know a little bit about me and my experience so that they feel a little bit better, because sometimes they just found me off of, through a referral or whatever, and they know nothing about, as far as they know, I have a studio in my home, and I was laughed a couple times. I said, for all you know, you were coming to Ted Bundy's house,
Oh,
well,
bud.
they don't know. They don't know who I am or what I've done.
Well, and you bring up an excellent point of how much of your business comes by referral. Yeah. And, I think because your business comes by referral, people are comfortable going to a home because of that.
They're not, and I'm certainly not putting down a major studio. They all have their advantages and they have their disadvantages. I can only know that from working in a major studio, as I have for a long time, people feel more comfortable because I'm out of my home. I have a studio in my home with the mirrors and the dance floor and the whole thing, but it's a one-on-one situation.
Right.
And they don't feel like they're there with 5 other teachers dancing around and they're distracted and whatever. It's more comfortable. They're less nervous. I can joke around with them. I have the freedom to feel who they are and how far can I go with my joking or whatever. And sometimes, and all of a sudden you see the guy on the second lesson, he really loosens up. And my student last week wrote on my calendar, "We love you, bud." And I went, "Oh, you put that on my calendar. That was so sweet." And they invited me to their wedding.
Oh, that's amazing.
I try not to go. I mean, I will go to theirs.
Yes.
But I try not to go because it makes them nervous. It's kind of like the supervisor standing over your shoulder.
Right.
And I jokingly told them, I will be there, but, I'm not going to be judging you. I'm not going to be grading you because you're going to do a great job. I think the thing is that what my students feel is that people are out there judging them and whatever. And I always try to say, look, guys, you're going to be the best out on the floor because those people who are watching you didn't take lessons. And my objective for you is to make it look like you didn't take lessons.
Right.
And so therefore you could fall down or roll around on the floor. They're all friends and they go, weren't they wonderful?
But I'll tell you, when the couple takes the time to just take a few lessons and learn movement, just basic movements, it makes such a difference. They look so regal because they're dressed up, in their best outfit. I call it 2.0 version of yourself because it's the best you're probably ever going to look in your life because you'll be glowing. You're going to have this gorgeous dress on. You're going to have an amazing suit or tuxedo on. And you just come in with all this confidence, and that confidence attracts all of your guests and engages all of them to watch you. And then they're enamored by you as a couple.
Well, I try to tell my students, don't dress up for me because I'm not going to dress up for you. I see the girls probably at their, like they look like when they're at home doing the dishes. They have their hair in their ponytail and they have their wedding shoes on with white anklets and shorts.
Right.
That's okay. All I care about is the shoes.
Yes.
All I care about. And I do ask them, and we can segue again back into that. But
shoes.
Shoes, dress. Do you want me to get into that today?
Absolutely. I mean, it's from a planner's perspective, you try to explain to the bride, you have to remember that when you get your dress altered, if you're wearing 4-inch heels down the aisle and then changing into flip-flops at the reception, your dress is going to fall 4 inches as well, which makes it very, very challenging, not only to just walk around to reception in general, it affects your bustle, it affects
thinking
everything. It does.
I don't know how many people who, I don't mean plan weddings, but how many people actually, you're the first person I've really heard that expresses exactly what I tell them.
It's frustrating. Well, because you know how gentlemen get ring around the collar when they wear their shirt? Well, girls get ring around the dress and it's at the bottom, and it's because they're dancing all night and they're dragging the dress, but the further down the dress goes, the more likely you are to trip on it. You can rip it. The bustle's going to give out more easily depending on what kind of bustle you have. If you have a French bustle, those tend to hold a little bit better. If you have the eyelet hooks or the buttons, sometimes if you are one of those girls that gets down on the dance floor, you're going to need a little bit of backup with a safety pin.
Teach for me because I
I have 2 left feet. You don't want me teaching for you.
I've never met anybody I can't teach dance. But I take them around the corner and I ask them, are you wearing your hair up or down? Are you wearing your veil when you dance? Do you have any restrictions on your dress? Is it, and I ask them to show me. Now every girl has a picture of their dress, 85 of them on their phone. So I look at how it's bustled. I ask them how it's bustled. Is it hook and eye? Is it button? Is it turned under and tied? Which I think you still call that a French bustle.
Yes.
And good. At least I'm still up with that because they change names. But, and I explain to them and they tell me that and I say, well, okay, we want to make sure that when you get up to dance, that everything is secure because if it lets loose, you're going to be walking all over your dress. You're going to be tripping all over and everything. So, and I talk to them about their shoes. I tell them, bring a pair of shoes that are comparable to what you'll be wearing for your wedding.
Right.
That's when we get into discussion. Well, I'm wearing heels for the ceremony, but during the actual reception, I want to be comfortable, so I'm going to wear sparkly Keds. And I'm going, okay, is your dress altered for the heels or for the Keds? Well, it's altered for the heels. I said, leave the heels on for 3 more minutes, honey, because it's going to be dragging on the ground. Oh, I never thought of that. That's why we do what we do.
That's why we do what we do. Exactly.
I tell them, it's your first rodeo, it's my 400th, or 4,000th at this point in my life.
Well, and I think a lot of them don't realize, like, the dress, it's almost like a person on the wedding day. I mean, when you first find the dress, when it's the dress, because first you put it on and then you start like going swishing back and forth. Then you start petting your hips and your tummy a little bit in the mirror. Then you don't want to take it off. And then if you're going to cry, it usually happens so closely after that. So you're making a connection with that dress, just like you would make a connection with a person. But on the wedding day, you have to dance with the dress. You have to sit in a limo with the dress. You have to stand at the altar or underneath the gazebo or wherever it is you're having the ceremony with the dress, and your maid or matron of honor has to fix the dress because the dress is always moving in other places. And so, I mean, you really have to keep in mind that the dress is just as much of a person on the wedding day as your fiance is.
And keeping on that note, I have had students that after I have taught them a lesson and I talk to them about their dress, or sometimes I usually talk to them right away. I haven't had it altered yet. Then they come in on the second lesson and say, oh, by the way, I have what I call a cowl neckline. Is that where it comes? Oh, I can't lift my arms up any higher than this. And you could see the look on my face. Okay, there goes all the underarm turns that we've been working on. And I'm going, why would you do that? You can't hug anybody comfortably. It's called form versus function to me. It's like, okay, you kind of limited yourself here. It's pretty, but you're going to be uncomfortable for the rest of the evening. So the dress is, like you said,
it's like a person.
It's a person on itself. Because I tell the guys all the time, never pull on your bride, never and I always say, don't do, I don't know if I can say, I probably could say this, don't do the, don't lift.
Say it.
You're tall, she is not. So if you lift up really high, you could possibly do what I call the Janet Jackson dress malfunction.
Oh boy.
Okay. And I said, so if she goes, whoops, and she does this and grandma faints, you're going to be in trouble.
So no wardrobe malfunctions.
Well, no. And so I have to make them aware that they can only lift their arm up so high according to the girl. Right. I mean, there's so many things that I think I cover in teaching them to dance. And I know I can see them, their eyes are just overloaded. I said, I know that you're not expecting this much information. And they go, no, we just thought we were going to learn some dance steps. I said, it's much more than that.
Absolutely.
Because if you pull on your bride, she's got a pair of, 4 or 5 inch stilettos on and a 30-pound dress. You're going to pull her over. Going down, your fault. I get America's Funniest Videos, $100. Thank you very much.
Your finder's fee?
Yeah, that's my finder's fee. But I mean, there's just so many things that are above and beyond that I think are necessary. Getting out onto the floor. Where are you coming from? This is all stuff that I include. Not include, it's just necessary information.
Yeah.
I find out, where are you coming from? Where is your table? Do you have a sweetheart table? Do you have a long table? Do you have to walk around the table? When are you doing your first dance? When are you dancing with your father? What's the song that you're doing? I have to find out all that information before I can do what I call a presentation where there is nothing left to be desired from the minute they get announced to the minute they sit down. Speaking of announcements, see, there's a...
Yes.
I had a DJ tell me a while back that a bride, we might say, turned into bridezilla. Yes, that's a common term in the wedding biz. But she went off on him because he didn't announce them properly.
Oh, that's my biggest pet peeve.
She was evidently a doctor, and he didn't know that. So I always, and he announced him as, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so.
Oh, yes, it's Dr. and Mrs.
Dr. and Mrs.
Yes.
Or Dr. and Mr.
Yeah, it is
She
Dr. and
was a
Mr.
doctor. But so anyway, I always ask them, have you talked to your DJ? Make sure that they know how you want to be announced, and this is the reason why. And they go, well, we never even thought about it. Exactly.
They don't know.
They don't know.
They don't know.
No. And so all those are preliminaries. I know that now I've seen in other, you have to know what your competitors are, although we don't think we really have competitors because nobody.
Oh, we have
does it.
co-opetition.
Yeah.
We all get along.
Yeah, I know. nobody does it as well as we do. But anyway, but the thing is that I know what they're doing and what I say, the gimmicks that they're using to make it look more enticing. And I'm going, wow, I've been doing that all along. I never thought about telling people that I do it because it's not a gimmick to me. I'm there to make you the best you can possibly be and give you as much information as you can.
One of my favorite things is when the couple is introduced into the reception and they go right into their first dance. That's one of my favorite things. How do you like it?
How do you have? Oh, well, I have all kinds of things. But again, here's more details. All right. When are you doing your first dance? When you first walk in the room after you cut the cake after dinner. Those are usually the three most popular times. If you're going to do it from when you're coming in, and here, I'm sure you've heard this before. Well, we want to do it right away because our guests are going to probably be, we don't want to make them wait for dinner. And I'm going, aren't you serving hors d'oeuvres? Yeah. Well, they're not going to die of malnutrition by the time you get there. Right. But if you're coming in, is your wedding party coming in? Are they coming in prior to you? Are they coming into special music? All of those things, you ditched your veil, you ditched your flowers, you're going to make your appearance as Mr. and Mrs. You're going to stand there for a few seconds or whatever and hoot and holler and whatever. But then, and I find out, how far do you have to go from point A to get to your, it's almost like drawing, a map.
Well, it's a schematic.
It's really very interesting. Yeah. So I find all of that out, make sure that their music is playing. I have changed people's songs at the last minute.
Before we started recording, before we started recording, we talked about that, how it's important for a couple to have an idea of what their first dance song will be. Because in order for you to properly, I don't even want to say choreograph, because that's not the word. What's the best word?
I'm going to go back and say, just disregard what you just said. Whoa! It's not important for them to know what their first song is. Mm-hmm. Some people come to me and they have no idea what song they're going to dance to. Okay, so the reason it's not, and because I do go over that with them, I tell people on first contact, what song are you doing? Well, we don't know yet. Okay, narrow it down. Probably one of the biggest fights, other than did you do the dishes today?
My husband and I are still having that one.
It is finding out what song are we going to do. Narrow it down. Do we like old songs? Do we like new songs? Do we like contemporary music? Do we want classical music? Do we want show tunes? Country music? What do we want? And narrow it down from there. He doesn't like country. She likes country. So you have to find a happy medium between the two before you. Otherwise, you're going to go bonkers listening to all the songs.
Right.
Let me tell you a very funny, a very, very funny incident I had. I had a father-daughter come to me, and they played their song. This is a song we want to do, and I don't remember the name of the song. It was a couple years ago. And I said, "Did you listen to the words? Why did you pick this song?" He said, "Well, we just like the artist, and we like the music and whatever, and, it's a country song." And I said, "Do you realize that in the confines of this song, it says, 'I can't wait to get you home tonight, honey, to make love to you,' and you're dancing with your daughter?"
Okay, that's creepy.
It was very creepy.
That's
I mean,
creepy.
it's creepy, but it's true. I mean,
Right.
they're not listening. They're not really. They're not going in as much detail as we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Don't do that song." I mean, that is creepy.
Yeah.
So I run into all kinds of stuff, and I have changed their song. I just changed the song just a couple days ago. The most popular song, which I loved when I was younger, is "At Last" by Etta James.
Oh, yes. That's
We have heard
very
it
popular.
1,000 times, as long as "Perfect" by Ed Sheeran.
Yes. What are some other popular ones that you hear quite a bit?
Lately, a lot of people are getting into Frank Sinatra, "The Way You Look Tonight" for father-daughters.
Wow.
And, I can't name them all. A lot of country country things are popular.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a great song, Etta James. If I hear Etta James one more time, I will probably go, "Oh God." This is almost as boring as the dance, but I have a version of it by Nat King Cole, old standard artist. I just changed their song this morning. It doesn't make any difference what they dance to, but as far as the tempo for me, and we can get into that. I told you I talk a lot because I love what I do. I love.
And you know what? I think that's an important thing is that most wedding professionals are in this business because they love what they do and they're passionate about what they do. And if we're giving a couple a suggestion, it's not because we're trying to judge anything that they brought to us. It's because we legitimately want it to be a perfect day for them.
Right.
And we want it to be a great day. And this is what we do. I'm close to 300 weddings now under my belt.
Wow, good for you.
Wow. It's a lot of weddings. But hopefully this is the only one they're ever going to have.
Yeah.
And, we're not, our intentions are never to make them look foolish.
It's not my way or the highway.
Never. Right. Exactly.
And every wedding is different, and every couple that you meet is different. They all have different personalities. They all have different walks of life. They have all, different occupations. They all think differently. And, I will say that in most cases, I find that the guy is, for dance lessons, is kind of like there, and because she said so. When I get a call on the phone and a guy calls me, I always say, "So this was your job, wasn't it?" And they say, "How did you know that?" I said, "Because when the guy calls me, I know she has said, 'You're going to have to call and make arrangements for the dance lessons.'" And he'd say, "Yeah, you're right." Then I'll ask him, like, "So what song are you doing?" And I hear him go, "I don't tell her that you don't know what the song is because you're going to be in trouble." I'm saying,
It's right up there with forgetting the anniversary date.
saving you now. And he went, "Wow, thank you a whole lot for that information." But it's a very interesting. It's an interesting occupation for me.
Yeah.
I don't like to say that I teach ballroom dancing. I am a ballroom dancer, but I don't teach them to ballroom dance. Matter of fact, many years ago, I don't even know if you know this, my company's name was Ballroom Dancing by Bud Walters.
Yes, I remember.
Do you know why I changed it? And I did change it from Ballroom Dancing by Bud Walters to Your First Dance by Bud Walters.
Probably because it is their first dance and it may or may not be ballroomish.
Yeah, but ballroom dancing, I think with the advent of Dancing with the Stars and all this stuff, I think the guys think that that's what they're going to have to do. And it's a little even more intimidating. Your First Dance is so much on a different level because it just says more comfortability rate. So I changed it from ballroom to Your First Dance.
Makes perfect sense.
It made sense to me. It was a difficult decision to change.
Oh,
in the middle
absolutely.
after 25 years.
I changed my logo after 20.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Happy Girl is being phased out and we've got a new logo, and
Good for you.
just that took a lot because
Which means that we're changing too.
right. You evolve.
We're growing, we're learning. I think we're learning. It's amazing how every time I teach, and even after 40 years with wedding couples, but how I'll explain something and I'll go, wow, that really works. I'm going to have to incorporate that now. I wish I could say some of the things. I mean, I'm very honest with my students and I have fun with them. And sometimes maybe they think I'm a little off color and I'm not, but it makes them think. I mean, I ask them like, how long you been living together? Or do you live together? Oh, yes. I said, so you're both sinners. So how long have you been sinning together? You know, but it relaxes them. It makes fun. They look at, he's not a dance instructor. He's a real person who we're going to be able to enjoy and be able to communicate with. I don't know if I went back, but it goes back to the couple that said, you know, you take the time to know who they are. They feel relaxed. It helps them bond together a little bit better because, you know, you say, he's the leader, you're the follower, and you know, I see her roll the eyes. I say, I know you can't handle that. However, he's in charge. After the wedding is over, you can be in charge again, but right now he learns to lead, you learn to follow. I go back to the premise of the old Frankenstein butt hugger, as I called it, showing them how to do a nice dance position, which is pretty standard all over, making sure that they leave room for their dress. My new thing is, which I love, so leave room for your dress and Jesus. It's funny. It's fun.
Oh, absolutely.
And I haven't had anybody that ever complained about that. So if you don't believe in Jesus, then don't leave room for him. But anyway, so and teaching them how to move around the floor. And the guys are always worried about keeping time to music. Well, if you think about it, you think of songs like At Last by Etta James. It's really hard to follow any kind of a beat or anything to that. So what I have them do is dance more to the mood of the music and just move around the floor. I have a set step pattern. They always ask me, can we see this on YouTube? No. It's something I invented many years ago. No studio teaches it. It's not structured. It's not choreography. I don't believe in choreography. Are we touching on all the bases here? You know?
No, I mean, like, well, before we started recording this today, no, I mean, because I think I actually used the word choreography, and you're like, no, it's not choreography. And, you know, from somebody who did theater for many, many years, as you do as well, I mean, when you think of dancing, you think choreography, and it isn't. I mean, you want to go into that a little bit?
Here's the reason why I don't. People say, well, we would like to have our first dance choreographed. And I'm saying, no, you don't. Here's the reason why. If you learn a series of patterns and you know, he knows that A is coming and then B and there's C, and he forgot what D is, and he went back and did A and you did D, you're messed up.
And he's going to go, oh, beep.
Oh, yeah, we're not going to be able to recoup this.
Right.
We're going to look like we're lost. So the secret is to teach the man to do a series of patterns, but lead those individuals as different pictures as many times as you want in any order that you want. She learns to follow. He learns to lead. They learn to dance so that they're not only learning to dance for their wedding, but they're learning to dance for the rest of their life. They could go out to forever. And there are some things that I don't recommend that they do, certain turns and stuff, because they're a little flashy. But for the most part, they're not going to get out there and rock back and forth like everybody else. They're going to look like they're dancing and that maybe took lessons. Maybe. I can usually tell when somebody has taken lessons because it's very structured looking to me. And I try hard to not have that look to it.
That makes perfect sense.
And it's always a compliment when they say to me, well, we had many people ask us if we took lessons. Well, maybe to some studios, that's really a slap on the face. Not to me. That's a compliment to me. If they look comfortable enough that they can continue and they look good. My acting experience that I've had and I taught modeling for a long time, but I look at that couple as a couple, what they're representing. And I say, guys, she doesn't realize it. A lot of they do that when they're thinking. And I said, you can look like you don't have any teeth on your pictures. Miss America wears Vaseline on her lips so that her lips she doesn't stick. So you need to learn to smile, because whatever you show up there, your guests are going to feel. Oh gosh, they look so uncomfortable. They're not having a good time. And I always say, are you two mad at each other? Do you love each other? Who's the prettiest girl in the room? Look at her. These are things that I think are really important to be the best presentation they can have. If you screw up, you don't get do-overs. You continue on. You act like you didn't make a mistake and go on. Isn't that true of any theater program?
I mean, it's almost like you're teaching a life skill. Because my big thing is ums, us, like, knows drive me bonkers. And so anytime I have the opportunity to try to break that habit with somebody, I try. And a lot of people don't realize that they're saying it. But it's kind of the same thing where you're almost teaching them a life skill.
Absolutely.
That they're going to take with them for the rest of their marriage, the rest of their lives.
I would hope so. And I would like to think that one of the life skills is learning to be able to communicate with each other. I'm not doing this, or you're not doing this, without being angry about it. I tell my grooms, look, she has to say to you what is called a frame, which is very important in dance because it tells the lady where to go, and it's 50-50. But she has to tell him, because he's thinking about what he's going to do and how's he going to get her there and his frame and all that. And all she has to do is say frame. And that should bring him back to reality. And I say, I don't care if she tells you 65 times while you're practicing, frame, 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 frame. She's not crabbing at you. She's just telling you that she doesn't know where to go because your frame is not there.
Well, I remember in Dirty Dancing that Patrick Swayze, or his character, was always saying, hold your frame. This is my dance space. This is your dance space.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well,
so you're going to have to watch it and check it out again.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny that there's so many things that you find out that you've been doing all along and you didn't realize. Nobody ever taught me to teach that. I don't. It's just a life experience. And I think that's what makes me a little different than the rest of the teachers. I'm not just somebody. When you come to me, you know what you're going to get.
Right.
You know that you're going to get Bud Walters because I'm a one-person show. But if you go to a studio, you don't know who your teacher's going to be. Right. You don't know if you're going to like them or not. Right. And I always say, if you don't like me, I'm old enough now, I'll give you your money back and you can leave. But I don't think that's going to happen because I feel very confident with that. But I can teach you in 3 lessons completely what you need to know, which some studios are doing 10 lessons.
I was going to say, I usually hear like a dozen or so from a studio.
I had an incident not too long ago where the young lady wound up coming to me because but the teacher couldn't accommodate them after she had gone with them and called me up because I have a good relationship with them, and actually I had trained her, which was just fine. So they chose not to go to me but to go to her, and I was going, that's fine, I don't care. She couldn't accommodate them, so she sent them back to me, and I asked her point blank, why did you go to the other person? I think I have to know that for my own marketing values, whatever.
Right.
Well, because they were cheaper. Okay, they're $10 less than me. I can understand that. But I give you 1 full hour, and I know that they don't. And also, I know that I can teach you in 3, but they're going to teach you in 6. Did you save any money? Right. No. Yeah. And I have a lot of good reviews.
Well, and it's interesting because with planners, we deal with that a lot because you have such a wide range of pricing for planners, and the ones who are like me, where I'm probably more in the medium high end. We've been doing this. I've been doing this almost 20 years. Wow. We're licensed. We're insured. I have a team. I mean, you're buying my experience. Not to knock anybody who's been doing it for 1 or 2 or 3 years, because everybody has to start somewhere, but they are going to be less expensive because they haven't had to deal with some of the I could write a book with all the true stories that have happened on wedding days.
Oh, yeah.
Easily. And some of you tell these stories to friends and family and they look at you and they're like, what? Are you serious? Because it's almost, it's a story that you just can't make it up. It's so crazy.
Right.
But you have to think on your feet. You have to be calm. You have to be collected. You have to have a big smile on your face, and you have to figure out a solution of some sort so that you can keep going through the day.
And you had to be in charge.
Absolutely.
You had to be in charge.
Absolutely. And so, the other thing is, and you probably see this too with the price fluctuation, I find that some of the people who are, every now and then I'll see a planner on Facebook charging $300 for a day of coordination. And one, that's not even minimum wage. Two, they're not paying their taxes. Three, they're not insured because you're going to pay at least that for insurance. And that person is taking on so much liability by doing it at such a bargain basement price. So, I tell people just kind of keep that in mind that, if you've got a planner who's charging, a couple $1,000s for a service, they do have overhead expenses that are associated with their business. Whereas like the person who's charging a couple $100s probably is doing it on the side, or as we call them, the weekend warriors, where, they do other things besides that.
And
but I
they
get
have
that everybody
knowledge.
has a budget though. And I get that too. So you want to make sure that the last thing you want to do is spend money you don't have. Being in debt is no way to start a marriage.
Right.
And I tell people that I'm like, do not, set a budget and stick to it. There's going to be a vendor in every price range for whatever your budget is. And that is more important than, throwing this party that's going to put you in debt for the next 10 years.
I think it's really important for the wedding couples to do their research and find out who these people are that you're going to be dealing with. And it's like going to a doctor. We've all gone to a doctor and went, I don't think I like this guy. And that's okay if you don't like the vendor.
Right.
I mean, not everybody's going to be the same, and I'm sure that not everybody likes me, but I don't think that's true. But anyway, but it's one of those things where they need to do their research. So, and I found that out. I say, how did you find me? How did you find me through this medium or that medium?
Yep.
And did you look at the reviews? They said, well, we went and typed in dance lessons and your first one came up. And I went, well, there must be something to be said for that. Google is very important. Am I allowed to mention that? I guess.
Google.
Google. I mean, and I've started getting to the point where I say, I ask for reviews. I don't know if a lot of vendors do. One person said, how do you get all these 5-star reviews?
I ask.
Here's my thing. I tell them, I would like to have a review from you. I would like to have a 5-star review from you. If you don't think I'm worth 5 stars today, tell me now, I'll fix it.
Yeah.
I can't fix it once you're online crabbing about whatever it was that I didn't give you, because I can't change it then.
Right.
So that's the way it is. And they say, well, do you actually ask them do you actually say that? I'm going, yeah.
I absolutely ask for feedback.
I want to know what's right and what's wrong. Most of the time it's just that they really had fun. They learned a lot. Their wedding guests really loved what they did. They were glad that they took the lessons. It brought them closer together as a couple. They found out the communication skills that were necessary. There's so many more things that I think they get out of that. It's a date night too.
Oh, that is one thing I tell my couples to do is a date night.
Yeah.
Especially that maybe month or 6 weeks before the wedding when everybody's coming at you. I tell them, you are to go on a date night and you are not allowed to say the word guest list, reception, head count, catering, photography. You're not allowed to say anything regarding your wedding. This is a timeout. Just like we give kids a timeout in the corner, you guys need a timeout too. And, if they just go and even just have dinner and a movie or whatever it is.
Or come and take a dance lesson.
Just something that, that removes you from all of the chaos. Because at the end of the day, when you're getting married, you're marrying your best friend. Everything else is a party. And if you take a step back and realize that is why you're doing all of this, that's your rock. Focus on your rock. Lean on your rock, because it's going to help you get through all that stressful time.
And and what I hear, and and I wish there was a solution for this. I always ask the girls and the guys, so what do you have to do? What, how close are you to being done? And I would say that 90% of them, I get them 3 to 4 weeks before their wedding.
Right.
So I got them in crunch time. And I've had girls cry. I've had them.
Therapy sessions. Vendors are used to therapy sessions. That's for sure.
I don't teach on the week of their wedding unless it's absolutely necessary because they're not focused. Are you here? Are you with me at the moment? Or are you thinking about what your flowers are going to do?
Right.
But the 99% of them say, we haven't got our SVPs back, and I'm so worried about that. And a lot of them, that's the biggest complaint they have.
Yeah. And 20% of your guests will not get back to you one way or the other. That is totally normal.
Bride just told me last week,
Yep.
She said, I got 3 wedding invitations back, blank. They put it back in the envelope and sent it to me. I said, so they're not coming?
I was gonna say that.
I don't know. I don't know how many people there are. I have no idea. But I know said, well, and they saw me last week, and I ushered down at the Aronoff, and I had my black uniform on and my earpiece, and they were there. And I dearly love this couple. They're so much fun. And I was invited to their wedding, which is coming up in June. And she said, you look like a CIA agent. She said, would you stand at my door and ask people if they have turned in their reservation? How fun is that? No, I'm sorry. And I said, well, here's the way you operate this. Put a table in the corner and you tell them, I'm sorry we didn't get your reservation. Yeah. You can sit over there, and if we have any food left, we'll be glad to share it with you.
Well, when you get your RSVPs, you have your RSVP date. I tell them, give them 2 days after the RSVP date is due, because there are people who have it on their refrigerator and they take it down on the day it's due and drop it in the mail. So you have to give them that little benefit of the doubt buffer. But if you haven't heard back from people one way or the other, do a follow-up call. It can be your maid of honor. It can be you. It can be one of your parents. Right. But, find out one way or the other, are they coming? Because it is possible that they sent the RSVP back and the post office is the one that dropped the ball. And the last thing you want is to have them show up and have no place to sit.
I'm kind of the last guy on the totem pole. I mean, it's like, well, we practiced in our kitchen and realized that we couldn't do this. We need dance lessons, and we're getting married in 2 weeks. And of course, I always tell them, that's a little ambitious, because you're like saying, I want to learn how to play a recital piece on the piano. I've never taken piano lessons before, and I want to be able to do a concert in front of 300 people in 1 hour lesson. I'm going like, that's unrealistic, guys.
That's not realistic.
So I always tell them, they call for the flowers. Everybody else is all a year ahead. I want them to get used to doing that with me. I am booking into October and November. And I think they think sometimes it's a come on, because I say, you need to book now. I have had people 3 weeks ago, they're getting married the 27th of May. We need dance lessons. Sorry. I'll teach you on my day off, but it's going to cost you a little bit more because I'm off. I'm opening up the store for you.
Right.
And you're not going to have much time to practice. And there's only so much I can teach you in that amount of time without you being overwhelmed.
So what would you recommend if a couple is interested in learning how to properly dance for their first dance? How far out should they be calling somebody like you?
Well, first of all, and I've changed my wording on this, when you know that you're getting married, let's say in September, say the 1st of September, you know that you're going to be taking your lessons probably I allow 4 weeks, even though they can accomplish it in 3. People get sick, people have complications.
Life gets in the way.
Life gets in the way.
Right.
So I allow them that 1 week buffer. So they plan 4 weeks out from that. So you're looking at already August or the end of July. Now, don't wait till July, because those are busy months, although they don't realize that, but usually we're already booked.
Well, it would be because the most popular times of year in Ohio, at least, to have a wedding are September, October, May, and June. And so if those people are learning 2 to 3 months out, it makes sense.
Well, yeah, but I always say that, September is the new June. It used to be June weddings. But if you can figure about 4 weeks prior to your wedding, not including your wedding date, that's when you should start. But book before that, keep in mind that it's like going to a doctor's office. You don't just get in tomorrow because you're called today. It doesn't work that way. You have to plan ahead.
Right.
And I know that all that gets in the way, and they're not sure they want to do this, and it's the last minute thing. I'm not as important as the flowers. I'm not as important as the officiant or the venue. But then all of a sudden, when they start practicing in their kitchen, they realize that I'm pretty important.
Well, on that note, Bud, thank you so much for joining us today. How can people find you?
Oh, well, they can, let's see, they can find me through my website, which is Your First Dance by Bud Walters. They can probably type in Bud Walters on Google and it'll still come up. Yeah.
Ta-da!
Because they have a lot of good Google reviews, and they can go on the Knot and they can find out through the Knot, word of mouth, ask around. Surprisingly enough, I'm found through Madeira Moms, Indian Hill Moms, Yelp, Angie's List.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going like, wow.
It's like, how do all these people find me? They just do because you're amazing.
I love it.
That's how they find you. Popular.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for joining us today.
This was fun talking about it and making me realize what we have in common.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the problems that we have. We'll get through this day.
We will. We promise.
We will.
Thank you so much for joining us. To tune into future podcasts, be sure to subscribe. And you can also visit yourdreamday.com to get a list of past podcasts and what we have coming up on the schedule. I'm Kathy Piech-Lukas. Thank you so much for watching or listening. Happy planning.